G'day guys, now that summer is finally done, have you noticed that your bearded dragon is slowly becoming lethargic and disinterested in their food? Well guys, stick around. In this video we're going to discuss all things brumation. G'day guys and welcome back to Cookies Critters. So if you are new to this channel, please do me a favour, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel and turn on those post notifications so you don't miss a coming video. As I mentioned in the introduction, today we are discussing all things brumation. So the topics that we're going to discuss during today's video are: why does a bearded dragon brumate in the wild? Why do we allow them to do so in captivity? What are the signs and symptoms to look out for? How do we cool our bearded dragons? Once they are in their brumation period, how do we care for them and how do we bring them back out and start getting them healthy and vigorous again? So guys, let's get started with why they brumate in the wild. Now guys, as bearded dragons are cold-blooded reptiles, they do require an external heat source for them to regulate their body temperature. Now this body temperature is crucial for them so that way they can boost their metabolism, digest their food and have the energy to sustain life. Now, without the presence of this heat, the bearded dragon wouldn't be able to digest any food even if it was able to find it. Now, coming into the autumn and winter months, food out in the desert becomes quite scarce, whether that is vegetation or whether that is their feeder insects or even small mammals. As their food source does become scarce, the bearded dragon needs to have a way to conserve their energy, and it does this by going into brumation. Now, essentially what it is, the dragon is putting itself into a deep sleep, just like a bear's hibernation, and the metabolism, their body shuts down just enough to sustain life, but without burning excess calories. Now, a dragon will stay in the brumation period for as long as it needs to in the wild, until the environment picks up. Typically around spring, you're going to start getting some of the the September rains. There's going to be more of an abundance of food, more abundance of vegetation, and this encourages the dragons to come out of their brumation. The temperatures are going to be warmer, therefore food source plus heat, they will be able to eat and digest their food. Now, in captivity, we as reptile keepers typically have a choice whether we brumate our dragons or not. Now, the caveat to that is, some dragons, just regardless of how much you try to keep them out of brumation, are going to go to sleep. Simple as that. Sometimes you just can't fight nature. But there are ways that we can do this, and simply all we need to do is increase their temperature. Dragons like to have it hot, so if you're sitting at 38 to 40 degrees, maybe even bumping it up to 42 degrees might be enough to keep your dragon awake and alert and craving for more food. That being said, keep offering them food. They may seem a little bit lethargic and a little bit slow and a little bit off their food, but if you keep encouraging food and they keep eating, they've got the heat source to digest it, so they might go through what's called a soft cooling. Now, when it comes to a breeder's perspective on brumation, we cool our animals so that way it allows them to have a period of rest, but the sleep time actually resets their hormones. For a female, it allows them to build up their eggs for the next season's production, and for the males, it increases their sperm count. As you can imagine, the females potentially laid between 5 and 6 clutches through the season. At between 20 to 30 eggs, that could be upwards of 180 eggs that she's laid in one season. It's time for her to have a bit of a break. Okay guys, so we're going to move on to the signs and symptoms of brumation in a bearded dragon. Now guys, so brumation is going to present in typically 2 ways. Now, your bearded dragon is going to look lethargic. It's going to look more sleepy, less energetic, and more inclined to hide from the basking temperature, hide from the UV. So whether that is like actually underneath the hammock, under its hide. I don't encourage hides, but some people do have hides in their enclosures. But they will find a way to get out of the UV and out of the heat source. I found one of my pygmy dragons the other day. she had burrowed underneath her water bowl, and that was her way of escaping the heat and escaping the UV. So that's my time to realise she's coming into brumation. Now the other tell for brumation in bearded dragons is their appetite. Now as the environment does shift and the temperatures do cool, the bearded dragons are going to pick up on this change in the atmospheric pressures, the change in the ambient room temperatures. Even though we do have controlled environments for it, it is instinctive. This is thousands and hundreds of thousands of years of evolution doing its thing. It's ingrained in their DNA, and sometimes you can't fight it. So the shift in the climate will bring on the reduction in their appetite. Now, this appetite may only be a very small shift away from what seems normal. And it can be confusing sometimes because you may confuse this with an intestinal parasite of some kind. Now, that being said, if you do have concerns of any parasites, especially leading into the brumation cycle, I'd definitely encourage you getting a fecal screening. Go down to your exotic vet and get them to run a test. It's about $30–35. Simple, easy. You'll have the results in a day or two, and that way you got the all clear, thumbs up that your dragon is healthy and good to go for a brumation. Okay, so now you've observed that your dragon is a little bit more sleepy, less active, and off their food. But what do you do next? Now, as I mentioned earlier in the video, you do have the choice to try and fight this natural urge for them to brumate, increase their temperature, keep offering them food, and ride the season through and try and encourage them to stay awake. Now, that being said, you must keep your hatchlings awake during winter, especially their first season. They need to stay awake. A hatchling brumating in their first year will be fatal. I do not advise it. They will lose too much conditioning. They are not developed enough. And when they do come out of it, if they come out of it, then the growth rate can be severely stunted. Okay, so you're either a breeder or you want to let nature run its course, and that's fine. So the simple tricks that we use here at Cookie's Critters, we allow the bearded dragon to have a incrementally lower daylight cycle. Now what that means is we keep their temperature, their basking temperature, nice and high. We keep it at 38 to 40 degrees, but all we're doing is reducing their daylight hours. So rather than having a 12-hour day, we'll drop it down to a 10-hour day, and then 2 weeks later we'll drop it down again to an 8-hour day. Now during this time there will be a slight reduction in their feeding, but what you want to do is you want to be observant when they last eat and when they last open their bowels. Typically from last feed to emptying their bowels, it could be a 2-week process.
2 weeks later.
Now this part is super critical. It's so crucial that they have an empty stomach when they go into their brumation, so that way they haven't got this excess food storage sitting in their gut, rotting and just being unhealthy. So for the last 2 weeks before they go to sleep, no food at all. Keep the heat nice and hot. Just shorten the daylight hours. Okay, so now your dragon is finally asleep, lights out, like a bear, snug as a bug. Now, simply all you need to do is switch off all the lights, like no UV, no heat, no ceramic heat emitters, no lights, nothing, zero, just darkness. Now, I do know breeders that do take their dragons out of the enclosure. They put it into a special tub, locked, ventilated, fresh substrate, fresh water, and just do weekly monitoring. And that's fine if you want to go down that avenue. You can simply put them in a dark place, whether that's in your wardrobe, in your shoe cupboard, wherever. Okay guys, so you decided to keep them in the reptile enclosure, and that's great. That's where they live, that's where they're comfortable. Simply all you need to do is, like I said, turn off the light, turn off the heat, and make sure that it's nice and clean for them. That's a good start. A clean environment, they're not going to end up with any kind of bacterial infection over their brumation. Now, a good tip for this is to simply put a curtain, a towel, something to block, whether it's just the front glass, or whether you have to block off, maybe even 3 sides, depending on where your enclosure is. But the idea of this is to reduce the external stimulus, people moving back and forth, whether that's kids running around, animals. lights turning on and off. All this is going to do is constantly interrupt the dragon's sleep. Just let it relax, have absolute peace and quiet, and let it do its thing. Now, so whether you're keeping your dragon in a tub during their brumation or whether you are keeping them in their enclosure, the only thing that they need during this time is hydration. Simple as that. No food. They've got no heat source, so do not give them food because they will not be able to metabolize it. Okay, so whether that is through a saucer of water or a bowl of water, or whether that is just simply dropping the water on their nose and they have a little drink from their nose. So that's it. Just water, no food. Okay, so now the weather's starting to warm up, and as a reptile keeper, we're in control here. We want to bring our bearded dragons out of brumation. How do we do it? Now, simply, it's just a reverse of the cooling procedure. So we want to, bang, lights go on, 38, 40 degrees. But we want to do a bit of a soft start. So, you know, whether that is starting at an 8-hour day and slowly increasing the daylight hours back up to the 12-hour day cycle. But it gives them a chance to slowly warm, slowly boost their metabolism, you know, get that appetite back up. Now, key things to remember during this waking up period is that your bearded dragon isn't going to have the same appetite that it had, you know, during the peak of summer. It's just come out of having a massive sleep, it's still a bit groggy, it's going to need time to wake up. And this time could take 4 days, it could take 2 weeks, it could take 4 weeks. Now, all you need to do is be persistent, just keep offering your bearded dragon food, make sure, key, that it is hydrated. So an absolute must here is we've got to make sure that we do not introduce a male to a female that is still in that waking out of the brumation cycle. If she hasn't had a chance to build her appetite, regain some of those fat stores, get her condition back on, she will not be ready for the upcoming breeding season, and this can be, worst case scenario, fatal for the female. So guys, that's it. Please do us a favor, if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments down below. Let us know if you choose to brumate your dragons or whether you keep them awake during the winter. And guys, if you did enjoy today's video, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel and turn on those post notifications so you don't miss a coming video. And as always guys, if you've got them, keep your beard treated and your beard heated.